Oh, yeah. What's good out there, everybody? Welcome to Colored Commentary. Colorful conversations by colorful people about Christianity, culture, and race. And I'm your host, Marcus Lloyd. And with me, as always, in the studio, Mr. Antoine Malone. What's up?
What is up?
What is up?
Welcome everyone to this here episode of Colored Commentary.
Yes.
We call this the war episode.
The war episode.
Just
oh, my Lord.
The war episode.
This is the episode. I didn't know we were on that. It's not in my notes.
It's the first episode that we're recording.
Oh.
Since the declaration. They don't want to call it a declaration.
I'm curious what you're about to call it.
They don't want to call it a declaration of war. It's the acts of war. What do you want to call it? The war activities against Iran, whatever it is.
I don't know. It changes every day. It doesn't matter. They
said
bombs going off. You know what I mean? Like that's
by the time this video goes out, maybe.
I hope it's over. I hope it's over.
Maybe it will be over or clarified as to what it is we are doing and why we're doing it and how we plan it to end.
It's clear. I mean, it's not unclear.
It's not stated clear. I think quietly clear. I think everybody kind of knows what we're doing, but anyway. So anyway, that's what's going on right now. Did you know?
I did not.
Okay, that I saw today that Iran, I think I said Iraq earlier. Iran has been duping some of our forces by painting pictures of stealth bombers and helicopters on the ground, and we are bombing these pictures on the ground.
That feels like fake news to me. That sounds like fake news.
Look it up. Look it up.
Somebody look that up.
You look it up right now, wherever you happen to be.
It's
going to be 2 weeks old by the time you probably hear this. But you can look it up right now.
I'm not even going to grace. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to dignify that. That sounds crazy.
Well,
I'm just trying to think about the artwork. The artwork.
Crazy times.
Okay, the artwork that would have to be done that quickly.
I'm just trying to tell you.
I mean, in the scale of it on the ground. You have to be able to paint that to scale so that somebody from a satellite will look at it and it makes it look like it's an actual stealth bomber and scale with paints and other things. It seems outrageous to me.
Okay, well you keep at it.
You can look it up.
And now
I still
I feel my journalistic integrity is being questioned.
You're being challenged on this.
Iran allegedly fooling U.S., Israel, and Israel with decoys.
So what was that first thing? Allegedly.
Yeah. All right. I'll check it out. I thought it was kind of funny though.
That's all right. That's all right.
Anyway, it's lighthearted,
yes,
but historic times.
It is.
It's weird to think that 50 years from today, these are going to be times people are talking about.
Yeah, on so many different angles,
so many different levels,
right? Like we can start this episode with anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? There's so many things that are going on, and I don't know, but like as a person who's in this work, you know what I mean, this activism, and constantly, whether I'm doing organizing around immigration or bringing coalitions together for marginalized work or the threaded work of consulting with churches who are trying to do more collaborative, community action, cross-cultural community action, like it can get exhausting.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Well, like, and I'm not even sure like if what I'm doing all the time is helpful. You know what I mean? I don't know. And I'm trying to figure out like, how do you pick the thing you do? Like, how do you not get distracted?
Well, like poor Gen Z is just one drama after the other. Like you think about Gen Z and it's just one big event, between COVID and everything that's happened since COVID. Like it's just one bam, 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 one thing after the other. I can't even imagine just growing up with, we had some things happen. We had some things, the big depression, not depression.
Whoa, I'm not that old, bro. I don't know where you were coming from. I'm thinking
about 2008 with
the recession.
Okay,
yeah, okay.
Sorry,
that's all right.
But we had a couple things happen.
9/11.
Like,
we had OJ.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. That was an event. That was an event. We had Rodney King. I mean, it's not quite the same.
It's not quite the same.
And just aged a lot of things right there.
All the things, but anyway, Gen Z. Just a lot of things.
It is. It's a lot going on with them.
So anyway, interesting times.
Yeah. So again, it's like constantly like in the work of it. I think a lot of people are trying to figure out how do you do this, and I came across this really great book, "Beauty and Resistance: Spiritual Rhythms for Formation and Repair," by an amazing gentleman, Jonathan Walton. And so we shouted out to him, had him come on the show, and he's here. Let's bring him into the show, and welcome to the show. Welcome to Colored Commentary. Our new buddy here, Jonathan P. Walton. How you doing, Jonathan?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me. I was sitting there being like, it's definitely AI. And it was very anyway.
You talking about the painting? See, we got Jonathan going. That's not happening, bro. Like, it can't. Thank you. Now you got him looking it up. He's gonna look this up for the rest of the show.
I'm on.
He's gonna be looking this up.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's clever. It is clever. Easily.
But, it would be clever. I love it. Now, Jonathan, you got this. I already referenced the book, Beauty and Resistance: Spiritual Rhythms for Formation and Repair. You take us through in the midst of this book, this constant thought around, how do we deal in the midst of some of these things, in the midst of this, as folks who are passionate about this. And you talk a lot about through the book. You talk about rest and restore, like restoration in the midst of the work. Resist. What are we resisting? And then kind of going on recuperating. All lots of different things that you're talking about in here. Can you give our audience just a little bit about, I know you're up in Queens, New York, probably enjoying a little snow. We down here in our short sleeves, right? But tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
You can guess where he is based on the hoodie.
That's right. I was like, it's just like, and it's got a Coming to America sign on the back. He must be in Queens. So tell us a little bit about kind of where you're coming from and where this book came out of for you.
Yeah. So I'm actually from a farm in Virginia.
Okay.
That's where I grew up, but moved to New York City because a scholarship brought me out of the woods.
Yeah.
And
literally out of the woods.
Literally. So
out of the woods.
I think this book, I tell the same story every time somebody asks me about this book, because I wrote three books in the last 6 years.
Yeah.
And I wrote the proposals for 2 of them at the same time. So one originally was Beauty and Resistance, and the other was 12 Lies That Hold America Captive, The Truth That Sets Us Free. So I brought these book proposals to my wife, and my wife said, you can write one of those books with integrity, and the other one, you'd just be writing about other people. And it would suck if you got famous for saying you were doing things you're not doing, is what she said. She's direct. And it's true. Like Beauty and Resistance, I did not live a life that was sustainable at all coming out of 2016. And before that, the ascension of Black Lives Matter and just the videos and all the things, Trump, everything. And now it hasn't stopped, right? Yeah. I would love for it to stop. But I think the invitation that Jesus has is that we stop regardless of what's happening around us, to trust in the living God. And so the book comes from what I would say there are individual, intimate, interpersonal, institutional, and ideological things that are happening.
Yeah.
That I have disintegration. Like I'm not living with integrity in these spaces. And so I name those things pretty explicitly in the book. And then say, okay, like how can I live with integrity in these spaces and faithfully wrestle with following Jesus in my marriage?
Yeah. I was going to say, give us an example for the audience to understand a little bit.
I mean, set the scene, man. Like I thought I was going to lose my job.
Yeah.
As you know, I thought I was a good Christian person. What do you mean Christians lay people off and make people sign NDAs? What are we talking about here, right?
Yes.
And my wife ruptured her Achilles, and the world was not great. I don't know if people remember 2023 because, things seem to be getting progressively harder all the time. But there were some personal things happening, some corporate things happening. Trump was going to run again. I'm getting asked, are you going to write another book, do these things? And then in my house, it's falling apart. My wife is on bed rest for 42 days. I am a terrible nurse, trying to help her take a shower. And there's nothing gentle about me at all. I'm like, get up, we going, And so, and then I peed blood in the toilet because I was so stressed out.
Oh my gosh.
And I said, this is not okay. Like Super Jonathan does not exist. I can't speak at church on Sunday, take care of my sick kids on Monday, get all the taxes in, carry my wife to the shower, do the compost, take care of the fix that. Like that man is not real, And so coming out of a real place of like, either Jesus is Lord and Savior or I am. And so if he is, what does it look like to orient my life around what he has called me to, not the things I think will make me look and sound cool online,
Yeah.
And so that the book is a lot about that. And my wish, was that I would not be in the same bucket, but we're still in the same boat now. I had hip surgery last year. I had foot surgery also last year, and I've got damage in my shoulder from all the football I thought I should have been playing a long time ago that I'm dealing with right now. And I was like, God, I thought I wrote this book. I thought I went through this. In my job, we're going through the same thing again. NDAs are being offered, severance and things like that. So it's interesting to have a tool to the same situation that I didn't have before. And so my hope is that I'm able to give something to folks that'll help them all the way through.
Yeah, as I'm hearing that, I'm trying to think, like, you mentioned something in there. You're like, I think you said it's something that affected your understanding your relationship with God, or you were saying, like, I thought I was this great Christian. Like, go into that a little bit. Like, what does that mean?
I mean, everybody out here talking about like prosperity gospel, like I believe X, Y, and Z, right? Like, and we'll say we don't believe that. Like, we'll say Jesus is Lord, all these things, and we castigate like all these prosperity preachers, but we actually believe some of that for ourselves.
Got some base level of that. Yep.
Yeah. That if I do the right thing, things going to happen to me, and that I be looking, I search the Bible. I'm like, where is the ease here? Like, where is that? Where does it say that God meets me halfway? Where does it say that like my cross doesn't have to be big? But maybe I don't need to take up my cross, deny myself, and follow him. Maybe I could put my cross down, do self-care, and like life will work out for me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so that I didn't realize I had drunk the Kool-Aid until I was, diabetic. so it's like you said there. And so that really exposed a lot for me that I didn't know was there, because now it's me that is trying to figure out health insurance, and me that should we move, because are we going to be able to pay our mortgage if I'm trying to live with integrity, right? Like, God, I thought you were supposed to take care of me in the way that I don't want daily bread. I want like weekly bread, like monthly bread.
Yeah. That daily is
401k bread.
Yeah,
that's right. Where it's compounding. I needed to compound interest on this bread.
Yeah. Like John Patmos retired, didn't he? Like,
I didn't see it. His beach house. Did he have? He had his second home out there on the island of Patmos.
Right. And
I think it's really interesting. Yeah, but it's like that base level is there. It's the reason why we're surprised when bad things happen to us.
Yes.
Like, when if you were to ask yourself, like, what? You say, I'm a Christian. This bad thing happened.
Yes.
The source of that surprise is a undercurrent of expectation that because I'm team God, that he's team me, and that means that he should be taking care of everything about me.
Yes. Absolutely.
According to my conveniences.
Yes, absolutely. And then we got to blow that up, right? Because I just don't believe that. We believe that as a society.
Yeah.
Right. And then we peddle that around, right? And so, I mean, we don't got to go geopolitical too fast, but anyway, there's all that.
No, but it does play a part. You know what I mean? I think that's where, in the geopolitical and the political space, and we talk a lot about that here, right? Like, there's a sense when you hear a segment of Christianity in the midst of the American experience, they're feeling like what you're talking about, right? Like, like things are supposed to work out, things are supposed to be easy, things are supposed to be comfortable. If there's change, it should not be affecting me in any kind of negative way,
right?
And so I think that is something, and
if it does, it's a commentary somehow on God's feelings about me.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think that's a I don't know, is that kind of the religious sort of false self that you speak to some extent?
Absolutely. Yeah. So one of the examples I give in the book is feeling like God put me on the bench. Right. So 2020 is happening. You got Breonna Taylor, George Floyd, Ahmaud Arbery, and I get a phone call. Hey, Jonathan, come to Times Square, lead a march. I'm on sabbatical. Jonathan, come to Times Square. Like, we're Times Square, New York City. Jonathan, no, I'm not coming. I'm holding my daughter, this Black Chinese Korean girl that looks much more Chinese and Korean than Black, that I'm trying to navigate that. And asking God, like, God, why do you have me here when the NBA finals are over there? Like, isn't this what I've been building toward? Haven't you been setting me up to do this? And God literally saying, like, Jonathan, like, this is not like you're missing me in this. And I was in a spiritual direction appointment, and I write about this in the book. I got a pound cake recipe in there, some bacon cheddar scallion biscuit recipe in there, because cooking became the thing that got me out of that.
Okay.
But I was sitting in a spiritual direction meeting, and she said to me, she said, Jonathan, if your audience was just the king of the universe, would that be enough?
And your answer?
And I said, no. And I got the worst headache. I mean, like in the dead center of my brain. It was so painful because I was honest.
Yeah.
That I craved the attention, the affirmation. It all goes back to like our childhoods and all those things.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
And I talk about that. But the reality that like the audience would never be big enough because that hole was so deep. And unless I had an intimate meeting with God, when I get on that stage or when I have that conversation or sit on a podcast, I'm going to perform. I'm not going to preach or be prophetic. Shape shift to meet the moment, get the affirmation, and then go about. You know what I'm saying? So we need the intimacy with God. That is the root of our authority. Yeah. And the religious false self would say, the better I'm able to perform Christianity is where my power and authority comes from. And that's a dangerous mix because we sanctify the violence we do to ourselves and often to other people.
Yeah, it's interesting. You touched on it in there too, though. Like there seems to be, and you talk about this a little bit in the book too. Some of this is coming out of unevaluated trauma and wounds, right?
Absolutely, yes.
I think I can't remember the stat that you kind of put in there. It was like 80%, or I'm trying to get to my notes. I know you got it in here somewhere. It's like 80% of people in the United States have experienced emotional abuse. 75% say their boss is the most stressful part of their day. But even said, moreover, 25% of men and nearly 50% of women have experienced some sort of abusive behavior from an intimate partner. This means the vast majority of the people we encounter each day are carrying trauma, and all people are connected to someone who has experienced abuse in some way. So I really thought that was really powerful, particularly in the ways that we battle each other in the midst of this conversation we're in, and we don't evaluate like what's the trauma that's drawing us out of this, or drawing this out of us, and even thinking about like, and what's the trauma in the other person that's drawing that out of them, right? Yes. And so so I'm always really curious, like if you're thinking, like you obviously talked about, hey, let's go do a march in Times Square. There's activism that you're doing. I think coming on the show, we're talking about race. A lot of those things, people put us on a more of a, we lean more left in the conversation because we're talking about marginalized people, because we're talking about immigration, things of that nature. And I know in our space, there's a lot of finger pointing back at the other side. Right. To kind of be like, well, look at what they're doing, whatever. But so I don't know, it might be interesting for just a minute, you know what I mean? Or however long we need it. Like, do you see, given what you're talking about in your book around this false self, around trauma, what do you see that we need to know about ourselves? What is the log in our eyes as we look at the speck in others, maybe from this side of the communication?
Yeah. I'll try to.
And we can do it together. We can all find our own stuff in here too. So we'll all take turns.
No worries. I think there's 3 things, and one of them is usually dominant, but all 3 are present.
All right.
And so pride, narcissism, and hurry. Yeah. And so mine is pride, which is narcissism and then leads to hurry. And so narcissism, I'm not talking about malignant narcissism. I'm talking about like radical self-involvement. Right. And so for me, like, I genuinely think that I'm better than most people. Yeah. I think I'm smarter. I think I'll figure it out. Like, I will work hard, and my life validates that. I got an Ivy League education. I got an Ivy League education because I'm awesome. I got a scholarship because I'm awesome. People told me I was awesome. And so I build up this whole false self. And then if I believe that lie, then I have to add to it. Right. And Dr. Robert Mulholland in The Deeper Journey, like, lays all these things out. But he says the false self becomes possessive. I got to get things to build up this false self. And then the false self becomes protective to protect the possessions, right? So then the religious false self does these other things. And all of a sudden you have this ecosystem around you that builds up this, in my case, religious false self. So I'm not just better, I'm self-involved, which means I'm right most of the time. And if I'm right most of the time, why do we need to go slow? I'm right. So let's just do it. And so then, you know, I think Mark Driscoll is probably a prime example of this, where he talked about there's people behind the bus, like either get on the bus or get out of the way. And like, and so there's people that, you know, we run people over. You know, Black church is also guilty of that. Where we constantly recycling people as opposed to serving and loving people well. And so all that to say, I think if we are able to interrogate who we feel better than, right? Like who do I think I matter more than, right? You know, and then interrogate, like, who am I not making space for with the time that I have, the energy, the resources that I have, right? And then how can I actually slow down to think and hear and see and feel the people around me and myself? And if we're able to do that, then your yeses become yeses and your no become no's, and all those things when it comes to justice and activism.
Wow, it's very good.
Do you have confession?
Well, I echo a lot of that. A lot of that thinking of, I don't know, I would have said it that way, but it's probably true. My thought, what I rationalize in my head is I spend a lot of time thinking about certain things. And so what I end up doing is dismissing voices that I don't feel like I spent the time thinking about it. And so
exactly.
And so the net result is still, hey, I've thought about this, let's go. And unless you have really good reason to not do that, my belief is that if you spend enough time, you'll get close to where I'm at with it, right? The reason you're not where I am is because you haven't thought about it enough. Right. So if you continue to interrogate, right? And so so I do have a resistance. Is similar. Again, it's different. I don't know that I would say that I'm better than, other than if better means having thought through it, spent more time on it, then I guess. But my thought is just that you just haven't thought about it enough. And there's no shade to you. It's just you're 5 minutes into the conversation, I'm 5 hours in. So you're going to have the questions that I had 4 hours ago. And so I hear those, you know, so that's kind of what my thinking typically is on that. So I would say that would be where I am. And I also feel like people are swayed by the group more often than they are swayed by the objective. And so I trust less voices for those reasons too, you know. And so I tend to go with my own gut and my own instinct because the crowd seems to have a massive say in what is right and good when it shouldn't, in my opinion. And so I don't even know if maybe that is still me saying, hey, y'all are at less. And I don't know if that's what's going on with that or not. But yeah, so there is something to think through with that in my own life, in my own mind and heart, and something to continue to search out.
Yeah. And I think it and all these things and those things that you guys were talking about there, there's a way in which, again, if we're in this conversation around the race conversation, immigrant conversation, national, whatever those conversations are, entering that conversation with the idea of, again, I'm further along in this conversation than you, then therefore your input is not really not recognized, not needed, or not trusted, or even what we can do to even go further is like, I am better than you. So whatever you're talking about is nonsense. And I need you to know that. And I'm gonna prove it to you by just hitting you with all of my knowledge on it, so that you feel in some way shamed by even coming into this conversation with me. You know what I mean? I see you feeling something over there. Did you feel something? Did I get something in your spirit? In
the sense of both of y'all, right? Like, I think where do I lead? I need a story. So I spoke in Charlottesville after, I think it was the first year anniversary after the Tiki Torch March.
Yeah.
Right. And something that stood out to me there was you have the folks that have been in it for years, right? Then you got the folks, this is their first time. And then you got the people that are looking at the bus, wondering how'd they show up at this church because their friend brought them. You know what I mean? And my brother is a pastor in Richmond. He was a pastor in Charlottesville. And he said, Jonathan, one day I went to the post office and a man walked into the post office to drop off a letter in a full Ku Klux Klan robe in the post office. And he goes, this is where I live, you know?
Yeah.
And that broke the room open, right? Because we needed everybody to be oriented around one experience, not I saw it on my phone or I was in the street or I was at the march, right? But like we needed an orienting experience for everybody to have dissonance at the same time, right? And that's really, really difficult to do in an environment where everybody's isolated.
Yeah.
And so I very much so, because information is my safe place. Like I avoid the emotions. I got the statistics and I feel like I can move forward.
Yeah, sure.
And to what Marcus, you were saying, like, oh, like I can do this. I mean, Antoine, you were saying like I can do this thing and other people have done this already, but they're not as far as me. And I'm going to wait for them to get to me. Right. And so I'm like, the exchange that we make with pride is for humility. And one of the things that I did not do this last night with my wife, which is why you saw me shaking, is like,
that's what it was.
Yeah, 1000%. Is all right. I am here in my information, right?
Yeah.
But Romans 3:23 says we're all equal and sinful before God. And so like, if my actual goal is reflecting shalom, not just collecting knowledge, then me and my wife or me and this person are actually equal before the cross. So how do I get back to that so that I can, you know, in emotionally healthy spirituality with Peace Kazera, they call it incarnational listening. How can I inhabit their world?
Yeah.
Now I push Pete's teachings further and I say like, there's institutional enmeshment that happens. Yeah. Where it's not just I need to be differentiated from my stuff, is I actually need to be differentiated from the social and cultural norms that are driving this conversation. Right. Because ultimately what I'm afraid of, and this is not y'all, this is my stuff now, is that I'll be attached and seen like this person. That's my fear. So
like the person you're connected, like
the person that I'm talking with.
Gotcha.
Right?
Yeah.
Because I like if it's another Black person, you better not be walking around here talking like that. Like we ain't got time for that. If it's my family, I'm like, don't go outside saying nonsense. Because the motivator there is actually shame. I'd be ashamed if people heard how they were thinking. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
and that's interesting. Yeah. And it plays out, I think, you know, as y'all's confession is this place, I think the way my wounds and the narcissism, as you mentioned, plays out is in some ways it's the opposite direction of, I think when people talk about narcissism, there's a sense of entitlement, right? That's the kind of that kind of drives it. And what I've learned about myself is the narcissism is a sense of, and you've mentioned it, it's a sense of survival, right? So the idea of controlling, if you will, the ways in which I act and the ways in which other people around me act who look like me, is this recognition of, if we do it that way, it will put us in the crosshairs of people to do whatever they do, right? And whether it be to the heart of, you know, just make fun of you or they think bad about you, or if you are doing certain things in certain places with the wrong kind of space, it could be the end of your life.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Or
somebody could call you out in such a way that brings certain people to the space that could come and assume it's you that's having a problem and take you out. Yep. So there's a lot of that survival that kind of comes in, right? And we talk about it a lot of times in the Black community, even those things of like the survival of how we have to think about, I'll say how I have to think about myself in predominantly white spaces of like, what I was always told is you got to work twice as hard to get half the credit. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And even that sort of, again, it creates a kind of narcissism as you looking at your work and having to work harder and harder and harder. And then you also are sitting on this wound that if you don't get what you worked hard for, then it's just a reaffirmation of your position in society, right?
Yes.
And that creates, it just creates a whole nother depth of pain and frustration and anger that then gets poured out on those peoples who look like those folks who did that. And even more so, like if a person comes and then starts to correct your idea on that or correct you in any kind of way from that group, if you will, it doesn't feel like just a correction of Marcus. It feels like a correction of the people Marcus represents.
Yes.
Right. And so then your pushback, then your battle, if you will, is not just for you, it's for your group. And and so I say all this like we're thinking, and part of the reason why we talked about this is because even in the activism, right, that we are doing with the greatest amount of sincerity and hope that God will turn things around, like the wounds that we carry, and we're talking, we're three brothers right here talking about the wounds that we carry can actually pour out on others in ways that are unfair at times, honestly, and unnecessary and revealing of the ways in which we have not allowed Christ to be the center of our existence, to be the one who gives us value and worth. We keep getting upset that somebody's not giving us the value and worth that we deserve because we've forgotten that our value and worth actually comes from Christ and not from that person. Right. And so we fight and fight for that. So, I mean, there's more to be said about that. I could go into a whole thing about all of my little things that come alongside being in this space of survival and what I associate as and have called complex PTSD, which, you know, a lot of people are finding in Black males, Black people. And I think that that's just part of what, and if we don't understand that, and I'll say, if we understand right on this side of the color line, yes. But there's wounds on the other side of the color line that are just as deep, that are also causing very similar reactions in the midst of this activism and conversation, right? And I don't know if you're seeing that or thinking through that in the midst of your book or not, or what you got?
Yeah, for sure. Because I talk about it this way, in that I remember there was a march. I think it was after Eric Garner was killed. There've been so many that sometimes they run together, right? Like,
look, I know you. The names just are constantly coming.
Yeah, so I think it was when Eric Garner, when Daniel Pantaleo, the officer, was acquitted. And I remember being in New York City, Columbus Circle, right? And Columbus Circle is literally Statue of Columbus. People that protest every single year about it. But the police were lined up with the horses and the masks and everything on this side. And there was a crowd coming down 6th and a crowd coming down 7th. And they were going to meet, and then they're going to meet this line. Right. Yeah. And I'm standing with some friends who y'all might know. I'll tell you later offline. But we're between them. And I was just like, you want to go home. They want to go home.
Yeah.
That's the goal here.
That's it.
You know, like, and I said, so y'all need to go this way. And they, you know, but like, but you need people in the middle of these two traumatized groups of people. Because the NYPD is 50% people of color. Yeah. Right. They're not all commuting in from Long Island. So, that's right. And so you've got, when we watch these arguments happen, what in the book, what I talk about is like, we all want to feel seen. We all want to feel heard. We want to feel felt. We want to feel valued. We want to feel celebrated. Like those things happen, and they all happen at a protest. You feel all those things happening for you. And the hard thing about the follower of Jesus is that we actually need all those things before we show up, because we get them from God. Yeah. And if we try to get them from other people, we'll miss the mark. Yeah. We'll miss it, because we cannot be obedient to Jesus if we're trying to get something from someone else that we're supposed to get from him. Yeah. And these are primal things: to feel seen, to feel heard, to feel felt, to feel valued, human. Like, and so as you were talking, there's a video of a man who was drunk in Orlando in 2014.
You'll have to be more specific. There were a lot of those.
I'm gonna explain it. Just kidding. And so he was being arrested by the Orlando police in the airport. And they're taking him down, and he says, "Don't do this to me. Don't do this to me. You're treating me like a Black person." Yeah. Right. Now, there's layers to that statement. Yeah. Right. For sure. And the internalized trauma that he has that is then reflected outward, right? And so I think when we don't process our nonsense, what ends up happening is I'm not arguing with my wife, I'm arguing with my mom.
Yes.
Right. I'm not arguing with this person. I'm arguing with Lorenzo from 5th grade who took this thing from me. Right. Like there's so much. Josh Johnson, amazing comedian, my favorite, has a bit about this when he explains Kendrick Lamar and Drake, their beef in Toronto. He gives this whole story. And it's just like we're fighting against not the person that's right in front of us. But if we're able to process it, then we can actually build relationships. As opposed to the phrase in the book is living out of our deepest values, not our deepest wounds. Like that. Like how do we do that? And that's
so good.
I was gonna say it's really interesting because there's a lot of conversation, and I love everything we're talking about around the innate need, the driving factors of the feelings of worth and acceptance, and the various things that you mentioned. I think as we continue to sort of look at a movement, and we look at where we could be critiquing our own selves in that movement, there is the issue of values. There's also the issue of purpose. A lot of people are driven by purpose, right? So for a segment of the audience who, when they say, when we're talking about, hey, everyone wants to feel valued, worth, and there's a group of people for whom they're like, hey, that's actually not I do need those things, but those aren't the primary drivers for me. The primary driver for me is to accomplish the task, or to fulfill the mission, or to do the thing, or to have the practical outcome. That's a purpose-driven motivation. And sometimes that purpose-driven motivation replaces the God-ordained purpose for what he happens to be doing in the moment.
Sure.
And has the same outcome. We don't have time to go into all the details of what, just double click on all the things. The way we just did a minute ago with the worth conversation. But I just want to bring up that there is the worth piece, and then there's purpose, and then there's also security and safety. But all those, there's a few of those primary factors, I think, that drive us, that all apply the same way. Christ gives us value, Christ gives us purpose, Christ gives us identity. And if we're seeing those things from someone else or from something else, then as believers, we find ourselves off track with what God happens to be doing in any given moment. But anyway, I just wanted to broaden that just a bit.
Yeah, and I love that, and I want to pull it in because to your AI conversation about the planes painted on the asphalt. I think oftentimes like we're bombing the wrong thing. Like we're putting so much effort and energy into getting the strategy right. You know, like I work with activists in a part of the country, and they've been working at getting this environmental justice thing cleaned up, fuel leaking in the water for years. And they're so focused on that. And the leader said to me, she said, Jonathan, we've got the money. Famous people are doing the commercials. We're doing stuff. The leader assaulted one of the people. So like, it's going to fall apart, you know? And it did. Like that organization is no longer there, and all the momentum they had is gone. Right. Wow. And so I think there's, in the book, I talk about like disintegration, right? Not disintegration, like falling apart, but like, you know, we need our thoughts, our beliefs, and our actions and feelings to actually line up. So the things that I say are the things that I do. And so for the activists in the room that want the thing to be fixed, I think I would love for the wanting things to be fixed to flow from a place of victory as opposed to a place of enslavement. And here's what I mean by that. I am not beholden to the outcome of the protest. So I protest differently. I'm right. You know, so if faith without works is dead, I think works without faith is slavery.
Okay.
Like I have to be open to the cross and death looks like failure to everybody.
Right.
You know, so that is a hard thing to hold on to. Which I have kids. I want their lives to be better. I want the protests and all the things to work out, but it's very true that I may take my kids to school one day and ICE is outside of the school.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter how much organizing I did. Doesn't matter that we have coalitions and rapid response teams and whistles. And if they come to the school and decide to break through the door, my wife is a principal and my children are inside.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so there's a lot of stuff there, but
yeah. And kind of thinking, you know, as you even started that, you know, you're talking about bombing the wrong thing, right? So you got the wrong target, and I love how you're bringing that out to recognize, like, for the Christian, there's already an end we know about, right? And so the protest becomes a little bit different. But one of the things that, when you said that bombing the wrong thing, I also thought about, like, there's a way in which the people who are trying to do the work are bombing each other, right?
Oh yeah. Oh my God.
You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Like, I'm just thinking about, like, I don't think people recognize particularly, you know, if you think about marginalized groups and you start having this conversation between them, right? It's not as smooth as you would think it would be, right? And I mean, I'm curious, right? Like, you're in a house, right, where your wife is not Black, but she's also a part of a marginalized group, right? So I don't know. Am I crazy? Like, how do we help people understand, like, that the conversation between marginalized groups is just not as clean, and we are in some ways hitting each other at the same time?
Yeah. So one of the things that this literally happened last year around the genocide in Gaza. So me and Priscilla are having this conversation, and she's like, Jonathan, you will go and lead all these protests, but, like, you're not leading us. Like, you're having these conversations, you're going and doing these things, but, like, we need to be on the same page before you go out and do something.
Who's dangerous. The we here? You and her?
Yeah, me and Priscilla. Yeah, me and her. Right? Like, we need to be on the same page. And that is something that she has consistently pushed for since we've been dating. When in reality, for me, I have done everything by myself since I was young. My mom would say, go take care of yourself, you know?
Yeah.
And so as we were having conversations, this isn't just a Jonathan and Priscilla value. These are cultural narratives that happen.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And so Chinese culture is exceptionally collective.
Yeah.
Right. Like, they could care less about I don't mean this. I'm being lazy in my words, but, like, the individual is not as important as a collective.
Sure.
And whereas for me, like, I'm trying to be special every day, all day. Like, I'm a Black kid. Like, there's stuff that comes up. And so when we have dialogues and conversations, whenever I say she feels slighted.
Yeah.
And whenever she says we, I feel trapped. Because I'm like, we're not the same. We're trying to be, right? But I feel threatened because usually when people try to put us in groups, it's a problem. You know what I mean? And so when we have conversations about labor in the city and unions, when we have conversations about Gaza and protests, now when we have conversations about immigration, my immigration story was not an immigration story. Our people were enslaved and brought to this country.
Right.
Her immigration story is that the U.S. Army were the liberators. Her grandmother was so glad to see an American soldier come and liberate it. And so we're having, like, really difficult conversations. And if I don't go into her history, I'm going to have serious problems. Because I'm going to dismiss her and get angry. She's going to feel slighted. And she said to me once, Jonathan, I'm not going to be colonized in my own house. Right?
Wow.
And I'm like, well, I can't have you go out there and say what you're saying because I feel ashamed, right? And so we go in that way, right? And it's actually about, like, how do I, as best as I possibly can, incarnate a Chinese female experience in New York City? And how does she incarnate as best as she can as a Black, what it's like to be a Black American without, so in this metaphor, we hold on to our whole identities while being not consumed by the other person. And so one of the things I've always said, and people say, oh, well, Jonathan, like, you can say that because you're basically Chinese. No, I will never be Chinese, right? Like, oh, Priscilla's so Black. No, Priscilla is not Black. There are Chinese people who talk like this from New York City. Like, you know, like, So that stuff is stuff that's hard to.
What are the I mean, that has an effect on you and her for sure. But if you take that to the sort of macro,
to the streets,
to the macro view as a more collective view, to say, how are these conversations like that affecting whole communities and the movements that these communities are trying to have toward these very positive ends of seeing everyone equally and social justice and so forth.
Yeah, I would say that the way to play this stuff out is competition, right? And so we saw this with historically and with Koreans and Black folks in LA, right?
That's right.
Documentaries about, I mean, Tupac had the song, like she got girl got shot in the chest, and then the riots happened. You got Korean folks on the roof with guns protecting their shops in the hood when they were all shifted there by white policies that gave them stores and loans to have businesses set up in our neighborhoods, right? This inherent struggle. And that is designed, right? So I think that's like one of the worst cases where there's like set up competition. But then I think there's the competition that happens with activists. And so I was sitting in a room when a Chinese police officer who was a rookie got sent into a project in Brooklyn. And he set off his gun and killed a Black male unarmed in the staircase. And so now, like, I am down in Chinatown with other activists, and we're having this conversation. And that is where I think followers of Jesus have to step in and say, I do not want what the master has to offer me on the plantation. I want what the master of the universe is offering me from the kingdom of God. And if we're not competing in the world's economy, we're receiving from God's economy, then there will always be enough. So anyway,
well, no, that conversation about competition is so real. I think we had a guest years ago kind of talk about the oppression Olympics. You know what I mean?
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's like, who's really experiencing the worst right now? You know what I mean? And you see that now, like when we talk about immigration, like a year ago, we were talking about Black people, you know what I mean?
Yes.
But now we're talking about immigration. And so there's this place, even as I see with Black people who are not as active as they used to be because, well, they're not talking about us. They went over there and started talking about them now, and they've abandoned us and all these things. And as far as energy, yeah, you could probably say that, sure. But that doesn't necessarily mean that's not a battle line that we should be a part of too.
Yes.
Right. Because that's the key is it's wherever injustice is, right? Like that's where we need to be no matter what it is. And what is it? Injustice anywhere is justice everywhere. Right. So that's that kind of space where, but we lose that because there is this competition and a collectivism that exists, I think, in lots of what I would call marginalized minority cultures of like, it's just us and them. And we forget. And again, that's where the Christian steps in, particularly the Christians who have a really good understanding about the mission of God and where it's heading with Revelation 7:9 and just the unity of Christ's people across cultures and races that exist and create a family, right? When you decide to accept Christ, you are baptized into a new collective that is a multicultural, multiracial collective, right? And so there's a sense that your people, if you will, if they are experiencing oppression, whether they look like you or not, need to have your energy to engage that space a little bit.
It's a kind of collective ego. We talked about the individual ego that we were talking about earlier and how we're driven by these various things, that the traumas from our past that lead us to fight for our worth and our acceptance, etc. There's this collective ego that really is playing from that same playbook that leads to what you're describing. Is this we need to be the centerpiece of things because we still need collectively that validation, that form of acceptance. And whenever we feel like we're not getting it, certainly if we're not the centerpiece, I hear a lot about who needs to be centered in conversation, and that conversation continues. The person who's quote unquote centered keeps changing. Sometimes it's the woman needs to be centered, or the Black person needs to be centered, or the Hispanic, the Spanish speaking needs to be centered. Everybody believes they need to be centered,
right?
And I wonder if that language, and we don't have to get into it, but I wonder how helpful that language is toward the kingdom end versus how much it's feeding this competitive view among cultures. Because to pursue that center, there's only one person, one or two things can consume that quote unquote centered space, and that is a treasured VIP section of the cultural landscape of this particular area. Well, everybody wants to be in this VIP section. Versus a kingdom that doesn't participate in VIP sections where it pertains to communal living.
Yeah, I think this is okay. So I don't know how to break this down in a way that is clear, right? So there's our inability to hold tension is highly problematic, right?
Yeah.
So if I don't want to like say 500 years ago, right? But but I think it's really helpful for people who are listening and for our conversation to like acknowledge like we live in a post-colonial society.
Yeah.
And masters are the most insecure people in operation. And now if we think about everyone that way, like we're all trying to be masters of our domains. We're all trying to have as many resources as possible with as little effort as possible. We're all trying to like have maximum control over things. Like our dominant ways of communication are like, how do I get mine? And it doesn't matter by any means. That's all these different things happening, right? And so I agree that the centered conversation is off, because I actually think we need to just be able to hold these things in tension. And I think I don't often have the emotional bandwidth to hold in tension. And I would say that a lot of Black people don't have the emotional bandwidth because we have not processed our own trauma to say Michael B. Jordan was called the N-word and make space for people who are neurodivergent, and make space for Black people who are neurodivergent, and make space to criticize the BAFTAs for leaving it up for like what are we doing here? You know what I mean? But that requires being able to hold things in tension and allow the relationship to win, not for me to win an argument. You know, and that I think is very difficult for us to do in a culture that is built off of hierarchies of belonging, as opposed to ecosystems that are dedicated to the flourishing and shalom of all people.
Yeah. And I think the fear, and I agree with that. The fear is that the relationship, people are afraid that they lose themselves in the, to let the relationship win sometimes feel dangerous.
Yeah. And
it feels like you're losing, right? Because the ideological touch point that says this justice thing needs to happen, so I need to pursue that, even if it means breaking a relationship. Some people will go with that, right? Versus saying, hey, we're going to hold the relationship win and let ideological concept die to the relationship. Or maybe it isn't so clear cut as that. Maybe it isn't that it always one wins or the other. And how do we know when to lean into our ideological convictions and hold the line there? And how do we know when we sacrifice those ideological convictions for the sake of our brothers and the sake of relationship? And I won't even say unity. I'll just say relationship. Unity is a whole nother thing, right? I think as we're talking about like these communal groups who are trying to figure out how to pursue the same justice from the same systems of injustice while believing themselves to have their own ideological priorities and their own egocentric way of viewing the community and wanting to hold it at the top. Those things lead to this canceling out of energy. I think that could frustrate the ability to move anybody forward, and actually gives, if you will, the master or the system opportunity to sit back and let them fight it out while they fight for a microphone, you know, to be heard.
And that, so maybe in 2020 we started working with these actually in 2015 it had one name, 2020 had another name, and now it's like a whole workshop where we talk about pace yourself, like pray, assess, collaborate, and establish. And like we're not able to take care of everything because we're not the savior, but God is calling us to take care of something. And I tell a story in the book about a mom that I know, and she said, Jonathan, I'm not going to march, but I'll tell you right now, all of my outrage is going to go towards everything on this block. And that she localizes her outrage in that way. And another mom said, Jonathan, I'm not, Freddie Gray was killed in my city. My activism is raising these two Black boys, one neurodivergent, to make sure they know that they are valuable, even though the police don't come by anymore. There's that season in Baltimore between the police and the population. And she goes, this is my activism, making sure he stays alive and actually thrives in this city, right? And so I think being able to know your lane, so you have this collective identity with people that are with you while not being exclusionary or subjugating other people is the difficult thing. So I can speak and show up and lead without trying to, you know, step over the other crab in a bucket, right?
Sure.
Like I can, I can do my thing without denigrating anyone, you know, and because the economy is different. If I've prayed,
right?
If I have assessed the things that I have to offer and brought those things to God, and then I collaborate, because He's never going to send Moses without Aaron, or Joshua without Caleb, and Esther without Mordecai, and all the people, right? There's going to be people. And then we establish new systems of being in the world, you know, and if I do my piece, then we can actually all do our pieces and things look fundamentally different.
See, and that's a really interesting thing you're talking about, is this piece, because obviously in the book you're talking about activism, right? And there's a way in which there's rhythms of how to do it. Like you say, this idea of relentless effort does violence to our soul, right? There's a way in which in some capacity, being able to put your efforts towards something very specific as opposed to everywhere kind of can calm you down to some extent. But how do you discern when your activism has crossed from a kind of faithfulness to the work into self-destructive striving?
Yeah. That's why I think Jesus says we'll be known by our fruit. And one of the things that I, early on in my like quote unquote activist career, because I would say like, you know, I've been doing this stuff since I was about 15, 16 years old. Like, Jonathan, go do poetry at this prison, go have conversations. I was platformed in a lot of ways. Like Black Church does it, and then we get picked up, right? And so I think what we have to be willing and able to do is examine the fruit of what's happening, but and have people close enough to us that are willing to tell us the truth. And so I ended up in a adult facility for minors. So in Florida, they can put, you know, teenagers in adult prisons. And so I went there and I'm doing a poetry workshop with them. Those are my first books were poetry. So spoken word, deaf poetry, jam, like all that kind of stuff.
Cool.
And so I'm doing that. And this kid looks at me, and I realize that the message I'm telling him is not going to help him, because he's going to be here for the next 30 years.
Wow.
I'm like, what am I telling this boy? Right. And then I remember another prison I was in, there was I had signed copies for the inmates that were there. And one of the guys like waved to me because we were in the same elementary school together.
Oh, wow.
And there was this moment where I was Jonathan and he was Michael, and everything else. He waved to me like you would a friend.
Yeah.
You know, and then we made eye contact, and then he looked around, he put his hand down, and then he sat down. You know, I did not have people close enough to me to give me a message for them when I was that young. I needed people to give me that, like, a better message. And I don't know that a lot of activists have people close enough to tell us that, hey, you brought an apple here. We need a watermelon. We need more food, you know, for any situation.
Or different kind of food for this situation, right?
For this situation, yeah. And so
or the food you've brought is rotten.
Right.
Because it's been sitting with you for a long time.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So
and I think that's part of where, as you're talking about it, like there's this internal work that has to be done inside of us, that our work flows out of, right? And to your point, and what's hard to what you're saying is, given the society we're in right now, like it's all about algorithms, right? Like whether it be social algorithms online or the social algorithms you create in your own world, where there's not people who can come and tell you that you're doing something wrong, because you're only hanging out with these people because we do wrong together. You know what I mean? Or we are wrong in quotes, right? Whatever it is, like we're doing it together. And if you're at the activism level, you know what I mean? There's people you are leading. There's people who are leading with you. And you almost get so dug in that you see this with, I think, a lot of churches and church leaders, like the people who are at that top level who are leading, they don't have the luxury of stepping out to sabbatical, right? They don't have the luxury of stepping out to rest because the environment that they've created, whether it be the people or the whatever they're trying to create or do, doesn't give them that. They are beholden to it in their minds, and therefore it turns into a lot of dysfunction, burnout, all those things, right?
I mean, that's the preface of the Lord of the Rings, right?
Yeah,
like get the ring, and
one ring.
Yeah, and I think that like in what you're saying, like we have to be willing to give it up. And I don't know that many of us are willing to do that. You know, I gave it up because I had to. Like I had somebody close enough to me to call me out. And there was a baby that needed a dad. Right. And I had done the work in such a way that like it wasn't just that I didn't want to repeat the sins of my father. It was that I had a vision for doing fatherhood differently. Right. And so in the book, I talk about counter formation, where like we may say, oh, I don't want to be like them, but the only thing shaping us is not wanting to be like them. We don't actually have a redemptive vision for what fatherhood or leadership looks like, you know? And I think that all of us in Jesus' name need people close enough that are able to speak to the mess so that we can respond out of the deep values of shalom and community, not whatever that unconscious driver might be.
Yeah. And there's, you know, the leading of Christ himself. I love how you talk about this in the book too. And I think we were kind of scraping along it and dealing with it a little bit ago. The temptations that Jesus experienced are the same temptations we experienced.
Same stuff. Absolutely.
And it just keeps cycling, whether it be you, the individual, your collective group, your country, your, you know, affinity group, whatever those things are, we are constantly dealing with sort of this scarcity mindset around provision. This is your words, the power that we have and protection, like safety, you know what I mean? And I think we see that whether it be you're on the right or on the left, I think if you watch really closely and particularly if you're in the middle, you're watching really closely, like you see on each side where you are fighting with this sense of there is not enough. And so I need to take, and I need to hold. And that is exhausting. And I don't know if there's rhythms of taking the book, you know, Beauty and Resistance. Like, you got any rhythms for us to help us stand strong against those temptations?
I've a few. But I was talking with someone last night and I said, you know, you're a dad, you have 2 kids, you have a job, your wife is suffering with a disability. Like there's a lot happening. And I said, you need to think about what you're going to do when you don't feel taken care of. Your kids ain't taking care of you. Your wife, quote, ain't taking, in his mind, my wife's not taking care of me. Like, and I said, so what are you going to do besides the vice that you've chosen? Right. And I love this. It doesn't have to be like, you know, massage parlors or brothels or pornography or pick the thing. In that show, This Is Us, right? And Randall, right? His vice is kindness. Right. And so and I was like, oh, that's me. But like this idea, like I can work my way out of this. Right. And so I think if you do not have a Sabbath or ease in your day, so a Sabbath once a week and a place of ease once a day, then there's a problem. And here's what I mean by that. I drink a hot chocolate every day, almost. Like without fail. Kids go to bed, everybody's down. I make myself a hot chocolate, I sit down.
Okay.
Right. I can't drink alcohol anymore because of medication, but like just to chill. Right.
Yeah, right.
And then Sabbath, right? Like I don't answer emails. Like I don't speak. Like I don't go and do those things. And I have to have those boundaries or I'll start to perform again. You know, I have to have rituals with other people to hold me accountable. In the book, I talk about this basketball game. Friends, when that basketball game dropped off, I was lost. I was like,
I
showed up at the court. There was nobody there. I was like, I don't know.
They didn't even tell you? Oh,
yeah,
you were
like,
lost. I thought you had built you a little community, a little group.
That's what I'm saying.
And all of a sudden, they was gone.
Every sister were lost. He's like,
where is everybody? Like, is this the wrong court? Did y'all go somewhere?
You ever play basketball by yourself? It is depressing as a 40-year-old. What am I doing? It's depressing
to watch me play with others too. So,
but I think we've got to figure out rhythms like once a week, a Sabbath. Sabbath is a minimum, right? And then I would say places of ease each day that allow us to slow down. Because if we don't slow down, we can't reflect. And if we can't reflect, we can't change. We're just reacting otherwise, right? Like we have to be able to slow down enough to be able to, as Jesus did, withdraw so that we can show up and live out of the Father's will for us and not the wounds and whims of the people around us, you know? So eating, sleeping, cleaning yourself, and going to the bathroom. Same thing we do for babies every day. Did you hear me?
Yeah, I heard you. It's simple. Like, I just,
did you hear me?
Just like,
no, I love all that. Like, that's really good. And you know, we're kind of wrapping up here, but I there's so much good conversation. In many ways, obviously, a lot of stuff that we talked about were the kinds of things that happened that inspired the book in and of itself, right?
Yeah.
Like, and so to be able to, as people listening, I hope they were grabbing onto some of those things, right? Like we're talking and wrestling with these wounds and with these reactions to things and to conversations cross culturally, and you know, there's lots of different things that we were talking about that can create a lot of stress, and even the I love how you're talking about it, the need almost to perform for the goal, right? For the activism, for the whatever it is you're running after. And that stuff just gets really exhausting. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so you have to be able to find ways to kind of learn how to build rest and resilience into your life. And that's something we've talked about a lot on our show and with Threaded, particularly over the last year. When things changed last year, we just saw so many people just like lost, right?
Yes.
What you're saying. And so we had to kind of create this framework in which we were talking through, like, okay, so how do we get through these moments? How do we build resilience?
Yeah.
And so the framework we dealt with is, you know, there's places in which you need to come and push your concern in the midst of the work. Like, this is what I'm feeling. You got to vent. But then you also start kind of moving to what does curiosity look like for the other group or the other person or the other ideology. And then that curiosity tends to lead toward, or hopefully we want it to lead toward, compassion for what the other person and the other group is saying, and then and ultimately all of it ends in celebration, right? So I just as a kind of, you know, speed round at the end here, we'll catch you off guard a little bit perhaps, but we'll see.
No, I'm good.
Is there? So I'm going to be curious. Like, what are you concerned about? What about the opposite ideas of you creates curiosity in you? Where have you found yourself maybe finding compassion for people you didn't think you had compassion for? And then what are you celebrating? So I can remind you of those if you need them.
No worries. We're all good because I have very similar tools. So I need to drop all the links in the chat. Here we go. All right. So the first thing, one of the workshops we have is the feelings wheel. What am I feeling? Why am I feeling it? And then what's the story I tell myself about that, right?
Yeah, sure.
And so one of the deep concerns that I have is around immigration. Sure. And particularly with, you know, the building of facilities and things like that, which I call concentration camps because definitionally they are, and all those kinds of things, but it brings up things in my house that I'm trying to figure out, right? That's my concern, feelings wheel. Yeah. But the curiosity for me is like, I need to not be resistant to learning and not be dismissive of the people around me, my wife, so I can learn, right? Where they're coming from. And so there's these, we have the 4 stages of competency. So you're moving from unconscious incompetence. I don't know what I don't know, right? To unconscious competence, where it's second nature to me, right? Like to go back and forth in these dialogues around immigration, right? And so what hopefully that will lead me to compassion is incarnational listening. Like I would be willing to sit down and listen to this story, even if I disagree with the facts.
Yeah.
Right. Even if the data and the research that I've done, like for some reason goes against it, like I'm meeting a person, not making an argument.
Yeah.
You know? And then my hope would be the celebration is that I'm actually close there's proximity and closeness to the people that I'm concerned about, because the people I'm concerned about live in my house. It's not just an issue, right? They're visiting my house for Chinese New Year. We're having conversations when all the parents are at, my daughter does gymnastics and we all go out to eat, and they're all immigrants, right? So that's where I hope that celebration will happen next week when my daughter wins and we all go eat, right? Like that. and I've practiced listening and learning, and I've practiced being present to the people around me, and that concern actually is cultivated into something healthy and helpful, as opposed to just another burden that I have to carry.
That's really good. I appreciate you sharing that. I know that's whoever comes in, it's always different answers, right? And yours feels very, very personal, right? In the midst of it. And like you said, like you mentioned that, like, hey, all these people around me are immigrants. So that proximity, even personally for you, is dealing with something that's happening at the macro level that affects a lot of your life.
And I also named too, it's like there are macro actions, right? So we packed, like, I'm taking these feelings, and then we packed 2,000 like whistle kits, right? And distributed them to, day laborers and stuff in the city. Like, there's mobilization happening. So let's not shuffling that away. But the internal work for me, the cost is. I try to.
That's it.
It's in your house.
That's it. I mean,
that makes it more every day anyway.
Yeah, I think that's what. Again, that's right on brand for how you've challenged your readers to kind of recognize that the things you do at the macro are going to be very deeply affected at the micro level here, right? So I appreciate that, and I know you're going to coming back. So those who are listening, we get to do an exchange, a thing with leaders once a month, first Wednesday of the month. Called The Exchange. It's just a place where leaders come to kind of exchange ideas with each other, to learn from each other, to mine the gold of the room about different topics and things that are going on in the world, or different things we got to learn as leaders to work into this justice environment. And we've got one coming up on June 3rd that you're going to be back for, Jonathan. I'm excited about that.
Looking forward to that. And y'all got to fly me to Texas, so it'd be great.
So you might want to wait just a little bit. Just give us a minute to get things together. Give us a minute to get some stuff together.
Now you're going to have to hold on.
Just give me a minute. But we're excited that Jonathan's going to come on June 3rd and engaging in leading out of rest and resilience. I'm excited about it, obviously, with the book that you've written on beauty and resistance, and all that you're kind of pouring into the environments of spiritual rhythms and formation and repair. I think leaders are going to learn a lot about how they can lead in the midst of these places while getting their own rest and building resilience to do the work that's before it. So I'm excited that you're going to be coming and hanging out with us, Jonathan.
Amen.
It'll be great.
Maybe so, man. I'm excited.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, this has been Color Commentary, colorful conversations by colorful people about Christianity, culture, and race. And we've had a great conversation here with Jonathan P. Walton. Make sure you check out his book, Beauty and Resistance, Rhythms and Formation and Repair, as well as some others. I mean, I love the 11 lies, or 12 lies. That's like, I was like, no, that's not the right number. 12 lies. I read that a couple of years ago. It was up on my Judas lie
in the back of the book.
We gotta vote in a new lie. That's all. We lost one. We got to vote a new one in. But yeah, check out a lot of Jonathan's work. Jonathan, is there social media spaces that they need to run?
Yeah, for sure. So at Jonathan Pan Walton on Instagram, and the Crux on Substack. The best place is Substack. I write a daily newsletter there.
That's right. That's CRUX.
X.
Black people. Yeah, he's gonna go with Crux. There's no really other place. You got to put an X on everything.
Absolutely.
Things in our community is gonna be good. So yeah, definitely check that out. Check out Jonathan. And Jonathan, we're so glad you came and hung out with us.
For sure.
Anything
enjoyed the conversation. Looking forward to doing more with you, brother.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen.
Me too.
All right, Color Commentary family. We're excited that you get to be here with us, and we got to be here with you. If we talk about our title, Colored Commentary, the Colored is an opportunity to invite yourself into looking through different lenses, different colorful lenses, to be able to see the world through other people's environments. Put yourself in their spaces. We talked a little bit about that even today. What does it look like to kind of put yourself in the shoes of others and look at the world through their eyes? And that's why we, at the end of every show, invite you to stay colored.